Hello, right, what we're going to talk about today is Footsteps, a really good way of connecting your customer journey and experience to your business success. As you can see, I've got a Monopoly board here, and I'm sure you're all familiar with the joy of playing Monopoly with friends and family, sitting around the table, discussing, having heated debates about who's winning and whose property model is better than the other person's and where to put hotels and houses. The process of playing a board game is very intimate. People sit around a table and they have quite an entertaining hour and a half trying to win or trying not to lose too badly or go bankrupt, which is basically the Monopoly model. And as you can see, it's a very common event in our family. So with this in mind, the Onswitch team came up with a way of trying to engage the whole practice team, sitting around a table playing a board game to entertain, educate, and ultimately create a connection between their role as a customer service person, whether they're a vet, a nurse or a customer care team member, with the success of the business. So we'd like to introduce you to, we're not going to play Monopoly, we're going to play Footsteps. Same principle, it's a board game, we sit around a table, we play in teams of 4 and we connect the customer experience through to the business success. So what we're going to do today is go through how to play Footsteps and why it will help you connect new staff members, some of your more established staff members who maybe don't want to hear some of your messages, and any team game, any team event where you can spare your 90 minutes to connect the customer journey through to business success. Okay, so the idea of Footsteps, here we have the game laid out. So for your practice meetings or induction training of a new staff member, Footsteps will really help them connect the role of the customer journey through to the business success. So all we need is a space where we can lay out a board game, set up the table, set up the space. We need 4 teams. A team could be 1 person or it could be 3 or 4 people in a team, but there will be 4 players going around the board. The board is a simple circular section, 4 key areas as we go around the board. Starting with how an owner would find a practice, what's important to them and working through the segments, then into the next section which is filling the funnel, so from the point of an owner finding you, then how do they first access your service, which is by phone, then through to the customer experience actually in the building, from arrival, waiting, checking in, going into the consult room, trying to pay bills, etc. And then coming around to creating word of mouth recommendations. So this whole journey, your team members will learn the 4 key elements of the customer journey through playing the game. So Footsteps is made up of 4 segment areas: getting noticed, how do we do that? Filling the funnel, how do we do that? Customer experience, how do we deliver a really good customer experience? And word of mouth, how do we manage that, how do we generate that, and why it's important. So, to play the game, what we need to do is get 4 teams together. Again, it could be 4 people, it could be 8 people, it could be any combination of people. You will need a game guide. The game guide is a bit like the banker in Monopoly. It's somebody who is neutral to the game, who basically here holds the pieces and holds the control point. The role of the game guide is actually really important. The game guide is an enabler of the learning experience on the board being played. The game guide can be anybody. It doesn't need to be a manager, it doesn't need to be someone with lots of experience, it just needs to be somebody who can pick up a card, ask the question, and then help the team move on. So, what we'll do now is we'll just go through what key elements are actually on the board. So we have the board itself, we have the pieces and the dice, or the die, just one, so it's a dice. And then we have segment cards, these ones here. And each segment area, so this is getting noticed, has a card associated with each of the squares that you would land on. So if we were to land on brand new owner, this would be the card. There's a question on the back of here. The game guide would ask the team who've landed on that segment, there's a question on the back. If they get the right answer, they then acquire clients. So the point of the game is to go around the board and acquire client cards. So for every question they get right, they gain 80 clients. So there we go. 80 clients are gained for the correct answer. Unfortunately, if you get the answer wrong, you have to give the game guide the clients back. So throughout the game, as you're going round, you can win and lose clients. Just as in real life, land on a segment, get the question right, you gain clients. Land on a segment, get the question wrong, you lose clients. The whole idea here is the team will then one, learn what the right answer was and why it's relevant, but two, as they go around, we'll hear each other's questions and answers as well. Once a question has been answered from the segment and they've won or lost clients, there's also a chance card. And there's a chance card for each area. So in this section here, we're in the getting noticed segment. So we would pick up a chance card from here. The question mark is how would we ever know about it? And this is a statement. For example, this one says, what percentage of practices are open 7 days a week? And then the game guide will say, what do you all think? The team go, well, I don't really know, not many I suppose. And then there's a discussion about how many actually are, why that might be a good thing, why that would help customers with better access, and why that would be good for the business. So it's then just a short debate. The game guide puts that card now to the bottom of the pile, throw the dice again, and we move on. Oh, 6, hang on a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh dear. It appears I have just landed on this square, which is a bit of a disaster really, because a new practice is open, so I now have to lose 400 of my clients that I've gained. So I now have to hand back to the game guide my clients. So you can see as we go around, the team not only have to answer questions, they have to listen and learn. They're at peril of losing clients and gaining clients. So as we go around the board, we spin around the board once. Once everybody's got to the end, they will have accumulated a number of clients. So at the end, say for example, they may have accumulated these clients. That's how we go around this board, accumulating clients, answering questions, having a discussion, and the game guide is critical to that. So once we've been around the board, when we get to the end, each team will have accumulated a set number of clients, and from there, that's where the clever bit starts. Okay, so we've played part 1, which was a customer journey. We now turn the board over and we now have the revenue journey. So each of the 4 teams will have accumulated clients by going around the 4 segments on the customer journey, from getting noticed to filling the funnel, through to customer experience, through to word of mouth, getting recommended. On turning the board over, they will have accumulated a number of clients that they won by answering questions. Hopefully they won enough clients to have some clients for the second part of the game, because every client on the customer journey, when we play the revenue journey, we turn it over and every client becomes worth a cash sum. The numbers that we're working to here is that every 200 clients that they won on the customer journey becomes worth 50,000 units of revenue from the Bank of Onswitch. And every 40 clients that they won on their customer journey becomes worth 10,000 revenue units from the Bank of Onswitch. The game has been designed to reflect a typical full vet practice with £1 million turnover. So the percentages, the numbers, the costs of all the bills on the revenue side, the VAT costs, the tax costs, wage costs, the cost of goods, the wholesale bill, etc. All of these reflect the average situation. So the reality of the numbers makes it a fair representation of a typical full vet practice. So by turning the board over and playing the revenue journey, the team now have cash and they have to go around the board and pay the bills. So the structure of the revenue journey is from starting over here. We have the revenue, and the revenue might have gone through the till in terms of we did some work and there's some money owed to us, but the revenue journey starts off with a section which is, well, it might have been billed but it hasn't yet been paid. So you may land on the bad debt write-off square, you might have an outstanding insurance claim that you may see or you may never see. You then have work that wasn't even invoiced at all. You've got delayed payments on your 30, 60, 90 days. Forgotten charges, work was done but it just was never charged at all. And free consults, so the work was done and knowingly given as a free, which is obviously a major issue in many practices. And then late payment fines, and from you as a practice point of view is that you might have some revenue but you just delayed paying some tax bills or some statutory obligations, so you've just been fined. Once we leave the revenue section at the top, we then move into cost of goods. And the movement from the revenue section to cost of goods is we've got to pay the VAT. So again, for most staff members, their awareness of VAT is actually quite low. And all the trainings that we do is the understanding of what VAT actually looks like and how much it actually is in a typical £120 bill, £20 of that is VAT, and a typical £600 bill, £100 of that is VAT, is a real lesson for many folks, and they start to look at invoices slightly differently. So cost of goods, we go through consumables, lab, food, cremation fees. move around, then we have to pay the wholesale bill, which again is a typical representation of 25% of your revenue being cost of goods. Then we move into cost of people, wages, pensions, locums, CPD, trainings, all the way around. Every time you land on one of these squares, you have to pay money to the game guide. You then move from cost of people into running costs, and the movement from cost of people into running costs is you've got to pay the wages, again a typical representation. So there's £400,000 worth of revenue units, Bank of Onswitch money has to be paid over. So by the time we get to about here, the teams will have very little money left, but they've still got the running costs, so insurance, finance, repairs, rent, professional fees, marketing, rates. So they get to the end and the question is, what is left? Chances are not a lot. Again, very similar to business. So by playing the revenue game, the only thing they can do here is hand money over to the game guide. All the way around, the game guide is just getting all the money they earned on the customer journey side, which again reflects real life. And as a training exercise, at a team meeting, as an induction, it really connects the hard work they do on the customer side to the reality of business. Is there are bills to pay, there are revenues that we never see, even though we did the work, we never get the money. Then there are things we have to buy in, the cost of goods, the things we have to pay for, e.g. the people, and then the running costs of the building. This whole journey brings home in really stark contrast the reality of, on a day-to-day basis, we're gorgeous to customers and it's lovely, but the reality of business is we still have bills to pay. So enjoy playing, really simple, really fun way of educating the team as to the reality of the connection between the customer experience, customer journey to the business revenue and success of your business. So Footsteps, a great way to make your training sessions and your team meetings a little bit more fun while creating sustainable learning. Enjoy.